Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Lady Up America podcast. I'm Diane Canada, your host, and so happy you're here today. Today, my guest is Dr. Carol Swain. You've got a brand new book coming out, and it's going to be available for pre-order as this episode is airing, and it's called The Adversity of Diversity. Love that title. Thought we would name the podcast that today, if that's all right with you.
That's fine with me.
We just had a pretty landmark ruling in the U.S. Supreme Court. And I know you have a personal story behind this that I want to get to first. Let's talk about you for a little
Yes,
bit, if we
let's talk
can.
about me.
What's that old song? Let's talk about
That's my favorite subject. No, that's not. God is my favorite subject, but like I missed a lot of school as a child. I failed three grades as a child because we didn't go to school very often. There were some years we missed 80 of 180 school days, and so math is not a subject that you can not go to school
Yeah.
and not be taught and be good at.
Yeah.
You know, there's something that I can tell you, I can attest to the fact that when we went from arithmetic to algebra, I missed something.
Me.
So,
Well, I want to tell you, I had school all my life in algebra. I failed it twice. So,
and I never planned to get 5 degrees. I have 5 degrees. That was never my plan. So my first degree is in business. My second degree is in criminal justice. I chose that field because it had the least amount of math. And and I went to Virginia Tech to get a master's in political science because I thought I was going to work for the government. And while I was there, professors pushed me and urged me to become, to continue my education, get a PhD. I was not interested. I was shy. I had been shy all of my life. There was no way that I was going to stand up and teach a class. And it was. I'm not. I'm not sure that I was ever meant to be a teacher in the sense that I was so shy. I would forget my name. And the idea of turning my back to a class and writing on the blackboard, and my vision of a great teacher is someone that goes to the blackboard. They have such flair and they do all this stuff and they draw these circles. And that was not me. And then later, Duke tried to recruit me. And I did take a fellowship there. I went there for 1 year, but they tried to hire me as a
I
faculty
bet they
member.
did.
They wanted they wanted me to apply for a minority position where at that time, and they still may have them, they would advertise a job and they would have three black folk compete against each other. And I refused to do that. And Princeton did not do that to me. And other schools, everywhere I applied for positions in American politics. I was a congressional scholar. I wanted to compete with the best. And so when Princeton hired me, they told me that they had looked at over 200 applications and I was the best qualified. And the chairman of the department said the only way he thought I could fail at Princeton was if I was in an automobile accident and my brain was outside my head.
Wow.
And so that was the circumstances. And so all this is happening during an era when there was a heavy emphasis on affirmative action and recruitment, but the people who hired me were the conservatives at Princeton. The liberals at Princeton did not like me. They did not want me. And I think it was because of my pedigree. I did not come from the middle class. I mean, I came from dirt poverty. People like me are not supposed to happen. We are not the people those institutions recruit. And I'm a believer in God. I was not a person of faith back then. I was more of an agnostic, but only God, with his sense of humor, would have taken a person who was as poor as I had been and placed him at Princeton. So I became of age during the affirmative action era, but I never wanted to be an affirmative action, quote, baby. And I worked harder because I wanted to show what I could do. And I always had, I'll show them attitude. With Princeton, my first book, when they hired me, I had a Harvard University Press contract on my dissertation, and I had a National Science Foundation grant. And that book won 3 national prizes, was cited by the Supreme Court, and I won the Career Award for Political Scientists, and I was the first Black to win it and the second woman. And so, did they know I was Black? Yeah, they saw that I was Black. Did they give me affirmative action? I didn't ask for it.
Right.
If someone favored me because of my package of who I am,
Yeah.
there's nothing I can do about what was going on in their heads, but I always tried to excel.
Yeah. That just being told that you can, just that you can, you know, I think people are just so hungry for those words. So one of the things I was saying recently on a program, I was talking about this subject, and I said, when we accept the idea that we are a victim, we become our own oppressor, you
That's
know?
true. And you know something? I was not raised to see myself as a victim, even though we were poor. My mother would not take free lunches or free
Oh.
books or anything during that era.
Mhm.
And I did hear all of my life from everyone around me that if you work hard, you get an education, you can make something out of yourself.
Mhm.
And so I did not even know I was oppressed until I got to graduate school.
I love that. And God, like I know your faith is so strong. We share that. And our God makes a way where there's no way.
Work. I can tell you that I did not know God until I was in my 40s. That's when I got saved. But after I got saved, it's like God took me backwards on a journey and He showed me where He was in so many situations. Many years I told people, I feel like I'm training to do something I've never done before. Little did I know that what I'm doing now is the thing that I've been training for all of my life.
All of your life. Oh my gosh, Carol, I say that so often too. Like you just know you have this sense inside of your spirit that there's just a higher call on your life. And yeah, you look around, you're like, what, why would God choose little on me? And I loved when you said that earlier, that it just would, astonish so many people. But that's what our God does. He confounds the wise. I mean, he
He
takes
certainly
the
does.
people that would be the most unlikely in the world's eyes, and but that's where we can glorify him. And you do that all the time. You're always putting that credit where it belongs, which is in his lap.
One
And
thing
oh,
you
sure.
quoted one of my life verses that the Lord gave me when I got saved. Was it First Corinthians verses 26 through 27 about how God takes the lowly things to confound the wise, the weak things to confound the mighty, so that no flesh might glory in His presence.
Yes.
That is one of the scriptures that the Lord gave me.
Wow. And I know he's right here in this conversation, and so we can always just see his fingerprints everywhere. And I love to watch him
That's
work. So
key.
we're looking at pre-orders here this week. So we're thinking this first week of August, you guys can go to your bookstores and pre-order Dr. Swain's new book, The Adversity of Diversity: How Real Unity Training Can Promote Healing in a Post-Affirmative Action World. But can you give people just a sneak peek of what they're going to read? And I mean, I know we've talked about a lot today that
Yes.
I'm sure will be in there.
What we didn't talk about was DEI. And I
Yes.
want the viewers to know that 90% of the book was drafted before the Supreme Court issued its decision, because I had a gut feeling that they had to strike down
Mhm.
affirmative action because it violated the Constitution. It was at odds with the civil rights laws, and I argue in the book that DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and CRT has to fall for the same reasons. And
Yes.
so the first chapter talks about the history of affirmative action. The second chapter is about my own journey through an affirmative action infused environment. I share some of my stories. Chapter 3 looks at the corporate world, the conundrum posed by all of these DIE programs and trainers, and just how they kind of destroy the institution and the organization.
Mhm.
There's a chapter about George Floyd and how his martyrdom allowed the DEI people, it gave them upper hand, it got BLM into many corporations. And then the last chapter introduces my company, Real Unity Training, and what it has to offer. And I feel like the Lord gave me the vision for Real Unity Training because the idea was birthed during the summer of 2020 when I had to speak at a conference about the race riots, the violence that was taking place across the country. And the night before I was to do it, I heard clearly in my spirit, and those of you who are believers know what I mean, unity, unity training. And so I jumped up, purchased the domain name Unity Training Solutions. And at the end of 2020, I developed. I incorporated my idea as a business, and it really is focused on helping uh, CEOs and owners and supervisors, giving them the language, the skills, the tools that they can use as an off ramp for DEI, because DEI does the opposite of what it says it's going to do.
Yes.
It disrupts the workplace. It's based on a conflict based model of Marxism, and what we need in the workplace is people to return to the mission of the organization, its
Mhm.
purpose. Why was it created? And just like with college admissions, you can have diversity without the divisiveness.
Mhm.
And you don't have to have DEI programs to have racial and ethnic minorities that are integrated into the organization, that are excelling, and for people that are high achievers, for racial and ethnic minorities that are high achievers, affirmative action has really been an embarrassment, and it's diminished their accomplishments, because no matter how strong you are, no matter how brilliant you are, people will say that everything you accomplished was because of affirmative action. They think
Mhm.
someone handed it to you. Most racial and ethnic minorities are just like members of the majority group. That's not what we want. That's not who we are. That's not what we're about.